Just over a year ago, I launched my campaign for President of the United States. 107 days, which is not 106 days or 108 days, but 107, which is a number, which is a big number. But it was the shortest campaign in presidential history, which makes sense for someone with the smallest vocabulary in presidential history. And that's true. 107 days, okay? Which is kind of like 127 hours. Remember that movie where he fell on the cliff? He had to cut his arm off? That was crazy. I wanted to document this journey, which was about the passage of time of 107 days, because you exist in the context of all that has been and all that came before you. And so I wrote this book because I wanted to give you a behind the scenes look at what was going on behind the scenes and in front of the scenes as well, but also behind the scenes so you could understand what was going on with me throughout the campaign personally, but also professionally through all of the people involved. And so I wanted to take a moment to read an excerpt from my book, 107 Days, so you can get a better understanding of what it was like on the campaign trail, okay? This was in September. Let's see. Do y'all remember that video of Dumbo with the big old Dumbo ears? It was on YouTube. It was just jumping around, going crazy, and everyone was just dancing, shimmy, shimmy, Cocoa Puff. Just like dancing around. Did you all see that video? Tim, could you get us some more tampons? They're in the boys' room in the back of the bus. Please buy this. Thanks, everybody. I didn't write this. Are you sure?
He's pretty good. He's pretty good at that. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I am your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. I hope your weekend went well. Mine was actually pretty good, all things considered. All things considering it was a fast day, considering we had a Jewish fast day, which is why I was ruling out a show yesterday. I noticed one of my regular viewers here, who's actually a very generous viewer, was upset with me that I wasn't here. I told you all I wasn't going to be here, so I hope I didn't put anyone out. I said I'm never here Friday night. I mean that will never happen that I'm going to be here on a Friday night. But I gave it a heads up warning that I was not going to be here Saturday and Sunday, and I wasn't. So I'm back here Monday, and I expect to be here, God willing, every day this week. I'm getting off my summer malaise. Now we're past the whole Jewish period of mourning, so I'm able to like shave and look like a human being. I sort of did a botched job there, but yes, shaving, like feeling like a human, feeling like I'm like show ready. Feel show ready for you. And today I got a banger for y'all. I got a banger. Specifically, I'm referring to two stories that I really want to focus on tonight. First and foremost is that there's a probe. A grand jury probe. Like, oh my God, maybe we're going to have some accountability here. Maybe we'll have some accountability, at least an effort at accountability, which is really the one thing everyone's been calling for from Pam Bondi specifically. Like, it's nice to just talk. Anyone can just talk, but actually do something. That's a nice little change. So it seems as if the wheels are in motion, Jerry. The wheels are in motion. Things are happening. Hopefully it works out better for us than it did for Babu. The wheels are in motion. Yes. And Pam Bondi ends up being a good woman. Who knows? We're not going to know. But we're going to talk a little bit about that, what that really means, what the left is saying about it, how they're just starting to actually wake up to the fact that, oh my God, something might really be happening here. Because I think they thought sometimes when you're throwing something out there, over and over, you start believing your own crap. If you're just used to just slinging crap all the time, it starts becoming your reality. That's That's reality. Because if you don't make it your reality, A, you can't sell it convincingly. Everyone knows that if you're going to sell something, you have to make yourself believe it internally. And second of all, they're much most likely to like want to slit their own body parts if in fact they think the idiocy they're spewing out there is true. So for those reasons, they buy their own stuff at a certain point in time. Yeah, sure, if you make them step back out and think about what they're saying, perhaps some of them are intelligent enough that they would recognize that most of what they're selling there is complete and total crap, but they do believe it. They tend, for the most part, they believe what they're telling you. So, or they make themselves believe it. I think that's what happens. I think they make themselves believe it. So, anyhow, the bottom line is, I think that some of them are starting to have a wake up call into recognizing, oh my God, there really might be indictments that are coming here against the Obama administration. I don't think any of them believe that indictments are going to come against Obama himself, though they should. But even I'm skeptical that Pam Bondi and her DOJ will have the cojones to drop an indictment on Barack Obama. I'm skeptical. I think they certainly can under the law, but I'm skeptical that they will. I don't think it's going to happen. But yeah, everyone from Hillary Clinton on down. John Brennan, James Comey, James Clapper, lots of names who are sweating bullets now. They're sweating bullets now. I also want to break down for you what's happening in Texas with this whole gerrymandering, redistricting. It's important there's a lot of legal confusion. I think it's very easy if you're not an attorney to be very confused by that story. But I think it's a pretty important story, as it could help have an impact on exactly what the landscape of shifts that can happen in the House of Representatives. So, and there's a lot of legal talk about this story. And I think if you're not an attorney, it's very easy to get lost. So I want to try and break that down for you and also give you my perspectives about that entire issue. Because there's a lot to understand about what the Supreme Court says about gerrymandering, a lot to understand about Texas procedure. I'm going to do my best to break it down for you so that by the time we finish here tonight, you have a firm grip as to exactly what the law is, what can happen, what is what threat is being leveled that is very unlikely to happen, and how this will likely play out based on what we've seen so far. That's what I plan on breaking down for you over the course of this show. But before we get to that, it's important for us to start with this grand jury probe, and I'm going to break down for you what that means as well. Let's start with that. Let's start there. I didn't give you a goal. If one of you has an idea for what you would like from me, as like, hey, if we hit the goal, Joe, I want you to do this. Do this. One of you has a suggestion for a goal that's like doable, I'll do it. That's actually that's going to be the goal. That's going to be the goal. I like that goal. It's kind of confusing. But the goal is, if we hit, because the normal goal is always 15 super chats of yellow or higher. That's what we're going to do during our 2-hour period. And whatever it is, we'll have viewers choice, the one which seems most reasonable. Maybe we'll have a little vote on it. We'll see. But if we hit our goal, the goal is always viewers choice. We pay I kind of like that, viewers choice, because I don't know what you guys want. I have a guess, but I don't know. There you go. There you go. All right. I see one suggestion. I see one suggestion here. One suggestion. Why am I not able to bring up chats? What is happening? That's not good. What the hell is that? Oh my God. Oh, there we go. That worked. That was that made me laugh. That made me laugh. Anyway, I'm glad. I'm very flattered. Thank you. Thank you. It's if it feels like you're going to the dentist, I'm doing it wrong. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. Let's start by breaking down exactly. All right, thank you sincerely. Let's exactly where this story broke, which is right here.
Well, Will, good to be with you. This is coming out of the Justice Department. Fox News can confirm that Attorney General Pam Bondi today signed an order directing an unnamed U.S. federal prosecutor to take evidence to a grand jury relating to an alleged conspiracy to tie then 2016 candidate Donald Trump to the country of Russia. Now, Fox News reviewed the one-page order just hours ago signed by the Attorney General. A source familiar with the probe confirms this as well, while a DOJ spokesperson declined to comment on this report of an investigation. Fox is told Attorney General Bondi is taking the referrals from Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, quote, very seriously. The spokesperson says,
we'll believe it when we see it,
that Bondi believes there is, quote, clear cause for deep concern, end quote, and a need
deep concern
for the next steps. Now, this move, Will, comes just a couple of weeks after the Director of National Intelligence, you see her right there, Tulsi Gabbard, sent a criminal referral to the Justice Department regarding what she says proves there was a conspiracy to undermine Trump's candidacy and later his first term in office. Now, to be clear today, there are no charges that have been filed, no indictments. This is incredibly early in the process. What we have here is taking evidence the Justice Department believes it has to a grand jury to secure an eventual indictment or indictments. We don't know exactly where the grand jury will meet. We don't know who will go before the grand jury, and that's by design, because grand juries determine if there's enough evidence to indict, and grand juries are secretive in the American legal system, so it's normal.
Normally, you don't know when a grand jury is convening. So, like, that's not weird. It's actually weird that we know anything. It's only because of the nature of these particular charges that we know anything about there being any sort of leak that there's a grand jury probe in this. Right now, throughout the country, there are undoubtedly dozens, hundreds, I don't even know, thousands, potentially. I doubt thousands. I would think, I wouldn't think thousands, but I don't know. I guess you count state courts. Yeah, thousands of grand jury probes across the country. In theory, at any given time. Now, not all of them pan out into charges, but a grand jury probe is basically a grand jury that's doing investigating, and they can subpoena evidence. And yeah, they basically are a group of citizens who are presented with evidence and guided along the way by the Department of Justice towards, what we should be looking for to try and secure charges here. So it's run by a prosecutor. It's got like 16 to anywhere between 16 and 23 grand jurors who are just your average. You could be a grand juror. Any citizen could be a grand juror, and they could subpoena witnesses to testify or provide documents. And the idea is they're trying to see if they can establish enough evidence that they are going to issue an indictment. And if they find probable cause, in that case, they issue an indictment. And there you go. That's all you need. That's all you need. How many judges sit in this? None. It's kind of crazy when you think about the way our judicial system works, but that's the way our criminal judicial system works. What about defense attorneys? They get it? Nope. This is why they say a grand jury can indict a ham sandwich. It's basically like a bunch of folks sitting around a room. So you only need probable cause. You don't need beyond a reasonable doubt. And yeah, you too can have the thrill of sitting on a grand jury if you're so inclined. And you get called. You just got to get called and then say, okay, I'm going to sit in there for a month. You want to do that? If you're one of the 16 to 23 people that they're going to have doing that. But that's what a grand jury probe is. So we never know when they're happening. It's very rare for us to know about a grand jury. Sometimes the subject of a grand jury investigation may be alerted. His attorneys may be alerted. Usually they'll be alerted. How they get alerted? Because his best friend gets subpoenaed saying, hey, you're going to appear. So, that's one way they get alerted. Like, what the hell? So I guess if, Big Mike gets subpoenaed, then we know that there's something here that may be bigger than John Brennan. I'm just saying, if Bill Clinton gets subpoenaed, maybe they will be going after Hillary. Could be.
Not to know all of the answers. Again, the DOJ declining on any comment regarding this investigation. But big news this.
As they should. I like that. I like declining comments. Good. Pam Bondi, you're not supposed to. Your job is not to be talking to the press. If it was, you never would have been hired because you kind of suck at it. But I think that they should not be giving any comment on this. Just come to us when the indictments drop. Do what you do do what you need, do what needs to be done. There'll be no questions asked. No one asks what happens in a grand jury. We never find out.
Was signed by the Attorney General Pam Bondi today to take this evidence of an alleged conspiracy to a grand jury with the hope to get an indictment or multiple indictments.
Okay.
That is big news, David, and congratulations to you. Excellent reporting on being first.
Yeah, being first with that story. That's a pretty big story. It's a pretty big story because it means that within the next several weeks, it's a pretty decent chance we're going to be seeing some indictments here against the Obama administration. And who knows? It could be, should be Hillary, should be. Who knows? Now, the key here is, where is this grand jury situated? Because the location of the grand jury is very important, because they're going to be issuing an indictment in the jurisdiction that they are. They're going to be issuing. So if you're located in New York, then the grand jury charges and the case is brought in New York. If it's brought in D.C., well, then it comes out of D.C., and then you need to get unanimity from a D.C. jury, which will never happen. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry if you're sitting there hoping, oh, please convict John Brennan. No, they forget about Obama. Hillary will never get convicted in D.C. John Brennan, James Comey, James Clinton, none of the big names. The best you'll get is some loser no one ever heard of will get convicted in D.C. If she's doing this in D.C., if you see that the indictments came out of D.C., we should be calling for Pam Bondi's head, because there's no way that's ever going to happen. You're just never going to get convictions. But here's reason to hope that maybe it's not in D.C.
This is a major development. We told you last week that Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, had given permission for a strike force to begin. That's a very specific tool the Justice Department uses on major conspiracies. And we told you then we would know it was getting serious when the grand jury jumped into action. We now know that a grand jury will be impaneled. Most likely, my sources are telling me, it could be in Florida.
That's huge.
Where the raid of President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home happened. So that is the very latest. You can check it out at Just News. We're going to have a whole lot more on that over the course of the next years.
What did I tell you? I told Sean Farish. I told all of you. I said the raid in Mar-a-Lago, that is what's going to get us down into Florida. If that is what happens, oh my God, what delicious irony that would be. What amazing, delicious irony that would be. That would be if they can get it down in Florida because of the raid on Mar-a-Lago. It's like what you're actually seeing happening. It's like what we would call Vinahapahu. I try saying that 3 times fast. Vinahapahu. It's basically the exact opposite. That all that Operation Crossfire Hurricane, that whole thing was designed to show that Trump was a criminal. And then he takes his documents down to Florida, gets raided down in Florida. And that might actually lead to the idea that could lead to an actual conviction. And by the way, I'm just going to say this. If they're going to Florida and they're tying into the raid in Mar-a-Lago, that could perhaps lead back to things related to Jack Smith. That could perhaps, this has all sorts of amazing directions it can go. all sorts of amazing, amazing directions. So they tried getting Trump thrown in prison after he left office because he took documents, and that action of trying to get him thrown in imprisonment could be the key factor which leads to them getting thrown in prison. Because if they didn't go through all those steps, it's unlikely that Trump would have proceeded to go down this road. We've seen historically that he doesn't like the idea of doing this. As of his first administration, he didn't want to do this. We know this. He said this in interviews. Let me pull up. I got a clip here of him actually talking about just that fact. Here. This is Trump. Where it's like, because they went after him, now they might be going to jail. And they should. They should have been going to jail even if they didn't do it. Oh, my God. Look at this.
New emails, Mr. President, suggest essentially that Hillary Clinton personally approved the Russia hoax.
With Obama.
With Barack Obama. And my question is she finally going to pay for what she did, or does she get a pass again?
So, we had her, and I had her right under the sights, and I told the people, look, you can't do this to a president's wife, an ex-president. And she was.
Look at this. His misogyny of looking at Hillary as a president's wife, not as a senator, not as the candidate, the presidential candidate he beat. But I feel bad for her because she's a president's wife. That's why. It's almost like his old school. What's the word I'm looking for with the CH? Why am I'm drawing a mental blank here. His old school type of when a man is nice to a woman. What's that? What's the term? Why am I blanking? Oh my God. Someone's gonna throw out the word. His chivalry, thank you. I'm thinking charisma, chivalry. Yes, his old school chivalry of taking care of the fairer sex. Thank you. Yes, chivalry. Yes, you're all, yes, it's chivalry. Yes, that's the word. That is the word I was looking for. Thank you. I was thinking charm, no. Charisma, no. Chivalry, yes. I wasn't thinking with the sh sound. That's, I don't know. Anyway, I was seeing the word in my head. Well, the first part of the word, and then trying to. His old school chivalry of I'm not, which people would consider misogynist, where he's saying, I don't want to go after the wife of a president. That's why he let her go. That's why he's like, we can't do that. It's, a former first lady. Yeah, I'm not gonna do that. It's almost like, if you're in the spy game, you don't shoot like the family member of a spy. Right? Like that's a no-go because otherwise things just get insanely bloody, right? You keep it to combatants, not to what are considered civilians. Even the mafia, it's not going to go after someone's family. They go after the individual, right? Traditionally, at least. So the sort of rules of the rules of war. So he's like, I'm not going after a former president's wife. Yeah, sure. If she wasn't a former first lady, I go after her, but she is. So, come on. And so, but my point is, he starts in a notion of let's not go down this road of trying to go after people. That's where his mindset was. That's who he is. He happens to genuinely be a decent person. That was shocking to the left. Because they portray him, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. They get so triggered by him. But the reality is, he's a shockingly decent person. He's like, I'm not going after a former first lady. I'm not doing that. Well, that was his take.
Secretary of State, right. But you can't do this to the wife of a president. And
do you still feel that way?
I'll tell you how I feel about it in a second.
Yeah, if shut up. I'll answer your question.
And it was after the election, and they said, lock her up. And I said, no. Look, we won. Just relax. And I didn't do what other people would have done, what they would have done. And then they went after me, and they meant it. I said, it's amazing. I always felt that you shouldn't be doing this stuff. And I let Hillary off the hook. I totally left her off the hook. And then I let her off the hook for what? And then I come in, and They did the same thing to me. The difference is they actually meant it. And they hurt a lot of people, and it was all a hoax. And now they have it in black and white. No, I think they should pay a price.
How directly?
By the way, it's a very big price. It could be the biggest scandal in the history of our country, but it continues onward. And that continues onward. You know, that scandal has continued from the beginning. They have everything they do is a hoax. They're no good at anything other than some forms of nasty politics.
So there you go. He's the one. They changed him. They changed him. They made him a different person. I'm sure Pam is on has it on her I'm sure Pam has it on her desk. Yeah. I was on a grand jury in Dallas County in 2022. It was every other day for 3 months. Nothing really spicy, mostly drug and burglary robbery cases. Yeah, they last for ages. You're there for a very long time. Barnes administration is hyper aware about jurisdiction. Well, that's good. That's very exciting. It's very exciting because you're wasting everyone's time if you bring this in DC. Literally just looking for headlines to make it look as if we're doing something. It is the most obvious and transparent dog and pony show, which would actually, I'd rather them not bring it at all. I'd rather them not get charges secured in Florida than bring charges in DC, because you bring charges in DC, you're just going to lose. And then it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt the next election because everyone's going to be like, oh, they went after him. You're going to do the same thing that they did with Trump. You try getting him, you're persecuting him, and you miss. So now you just look as if you were trying to persecute him rather than you actually trying to prosecute crimes. And that just gets their base all riled up. And that's what will happen if you bring this in DC. No matter how guilty they are, you could have as many smoking guns as you want. You got smoking guns and confessions up and down. You're not going to get any serious convictions. So you can't if you take a shot at the heads, you best not miss. You best not miss. And if you go to DC, you have no chance. You're trying to thread a needle, which is unthreadable. I want to just address this also really quick, because I think this is what I know. Paulie is someone who I actually kind of like when he comes, because he's not a MAGA guy at all. Obviously, you can see that he's like, but he's also, and I know he can sometimes troll. I know he sometimes trolls some of you. I see it. I see when he used to troll a lot more. He's gotten much better about not trolling. And I think he's sincere when he writes this here. And to other people who may not be MAGA oriented who are watching my show, I want to explain to you my perspective about Trump, because I've said many times I think he's a phenomenal person, but I don't think he's a great role model for like what I want my kids to grow up to be. He happens to be phenomenal at the job, in my personal opinion, and I can back up that personal opinion. But I don't look at him as being a role model, but not it's not in the way that Paulie or others who really dislike Trump look at him, in the sense that I feel as if Trump is from a different era and being judged by 2025 yardsticks. Meaning, he's from a different, this guy literally grew up in the age of like Mad Men, like, the TV show, where it's like, the way they look at other races are, the way the comments they make, like all of that, especially if you look at him historically in the given era of how he treat women, how he might think about other races, it's going to come off in a way that by a 2025 yardstick is going to be seeming crude and gross and deplorable. I mean, let's just face it. That's how it would. But it's such a ridiculous yardstick to be judging by, because you have to judge a person based on the time that they're in. You trust me that 30 years from now, whatever the social moral, the Overton window is continually shifting, and whatever yardstick is normal for 2020s is vastly different from the social norms and mores of the early 2000s, much less the 1990s, 1980s, 1970s, 1960s. And I feel as if people look at folks who are from that era And it's almost the same way I see people who look at Thomas Jefferson and they're like, well, you own slaves. You're an immoral person. It's like, dude, you have any idea how far ahead he was of the curve on that particular issue? Like way beyond the curve, anyone in his demographic, how far beyond the curve he was. Now, I'm not even saying Trump was ahead of the curve. I'm not making that claim about him. I'm simply saying that if you judge him based on the norms of the era that, he was basically making his hay. Yeah, I think that's, based on what a typical white dude was like in the 70s, 80s, I don't think he's remotely different from that. That's just reality. But now you're sitting here with a 2025 mindset saying, I can't believe he once touched a woman like this. It's like, that's just I'm not saying it's okay what they did. I'm not trying to give a pass on what they did, but I'm saying to judge him based on that and say he's now a bad person. Oh, he can't be a good leader because look what he did in 1987. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like it's just not it's a ridiculous yardstick. It really is. So yeah, that's what I mean when I say a decent person, and the chivalry that that I referenced is far greater in the second half of the 20th century compared to what it is now. There's no chivalry today. Chivalry is gone. It's done. Dunskies. Forget it. You want chivalry. Women are dying for a guy who has any kind of chivalry. There's no chivalry anymore. And what he just described is an incredible sign of chivalry. So yeah, I'm not saying that I still don't say that he's someone who would be a role model for what, because I think there are other issues with his personality where I think I do think that he has a narcissistic streak to him in the sense that it's an insecure. I wouldn't even say narcissism. It's not narcissism. It's not really narcissism. It's more insecurity that I think he displays with you could see it with the big golden T, right? That it was everywhere. They wants to be loved very, very badly, which is, that's just part of who he is. That's part of the package. Anyhow, but I thought that was important to get out of the way. But I got a couple more reports on this before we move on to our next story, just so we can get the full landscape of this. Here is Jonathan Turley talking about this.
This is the first necessary step to finding out about the real Russian conspiracy. There never was a Russian collusion conspiracy. That was hatched by the Clinton campaign. They secretly funded the Steele dossier. They denied that to the media, and they laid out this very successful political hit job using the media, using the government. It's amazing how much the public still doesn't know. But in the last few weeks, this administration has given us information that we haven't seen before. I've been following this, writing about it for years. Some of this is new stuff, and it's startling. This is the first It is, and this is a step towards actual accountability. What Tulsi Gabbard did, the reason this is different from Tulsi Gabbard, is because what Tulsi Gabbard did was she gave us new facts. Now those new facts are turning into potential accountability. That's what today's story is. That the new facts that Tulsi unleashed starting roughly 2 weeks ago are now turning into potential accountability. And that is big news, especially because the one thing that everyone's been complaining about with respect to Pam Bondi is the lack of accountability for these big name cases. And here's more.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. DNI Gabbard has made referrals, and why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax, against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word. So what I think.
And I do think chauvinism is the right word. It is a chauvinism. Yeah, it was. It was a chauvinism. But that was the norm. And judging by that norm it's unfair to just pretend that, like, you know, you would have been so different if you were in that sphere. Like, if you were living 50 years ago, that you would be so different, because the reality is you wouldn't be. What makes you think you're so special that if you were living then in that type of culture, and the evidence that I have that you would not be any different is because you are perfectly reflecting today's culture. Meaning, if your personality, and this is the point I want to make, I'm going to make myself big for this because this is one I want to remember for later. See, when that's the tip to you, like, oh, okay, here comes Joe. If your sensibilities perfectly reflect today's culture, you're essentially saying that you are a product of the environment that you are in. Because no one would naturally come to whatever the modern day sensibilities are individually. Everyone would veer somewhat away from that. So if you are a good, strong reflection of current modern day sensibilities, what the society is pushing, if that's who you are as a person, that's not a reflection of you being more advanced. That's a reflection of you being that's indicator that you're a reflection of your own society. And what that means is that if you lived in a different society, in a different age, in a different place, that your personality is one that you would chameleon over into that personality, into being that type of person. If you're someone who today breaks somewhat from what the norms of society tell you, and you say, I don't care. I know what's right. I know what's wrong. And even though this is not a popular thing to say, this is what I feel. Then at least there's a possibility that you would similarly break away from the norms of the day in a different society. But if you're actually the type of person who is perfectly reflecting life in the Western world in 2025, all you're really revealing about yourself is that you follow the herd. And if you're someone who follows the herd, that means if you were in a different herd, in a different location, or in a different time, that you would be following that herd. Now, that's not necessarily an indictment on you as a person, because frankly, most people follow the herd. There are very few people who stray away and say, I'm comfortable enough with who I am as a person to break away from embracing these things that most of society is embracing. There are not many people who have the cojones to do that. But everyone who comes along and judges others in a different time, in a different day, a different age, or a different place, and they sit there saying, well, if I was there, I'd be doing different. You're lying. You're fooling yourself. You're living in a fantasy world. Because there's nothing about your personality which indicates that that's your nature to do that. That's the point I'm getting at. And I'm not speaking specifically to Paulie. I'm really speaking to anyone who uses a current mindset to judge others, or a Western mindset to judge people in different parts of the world. Because all you're revealing is that you are a product of your environment, which means if you grew up in a different environment, you would be a product of that environment. That's just who you are as a person. That you happen to not be one of the few individuals who stray from the herd. So, okay, that's just not. So if you're not someone who strays from the herd, in that case, if you were in that herd, you would be saying the same thing he was saying. That's my point. Same chauvinism, same sexism, same whatever. You would have been doing it. So you sit here now because you grew up in a different herd. You're like, well, I would never do such a thing. That's a lie. I don't think you're intentionally lying. I think you're fooling yourself, because we all like to think of ourselves as being better than we actually are. But everything about your personality indicates that you're fooling yourself, because it just makes you feel better to say that. That's the point I wanted to get. All right, now we can zoom out. Zoom out. All right. I want to get one from the left before I did this. I have one more. One more. I'm really looking forward to. I started watching this and I was like, oh, I gotta save this for my audience. I gotta save this for my audience because it's the king himself. The king himself spreading more and more BS from the king that was unearthed. Let me see if I can find this. Oh, I know how I found this before. Give me a second. There was one clip that I thought I had. I'm not seeing it here, but I'm going to see if I can pull it up now, just to tell you this is it.
For a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. I shared with you how, the right is covering this story. I just want to show you the crazy tilt from the left. Crazy tilt. Okay. Check out this story. I don't know who this woman is. I don't need to know. I don't know either of this woman. I don't know. But this is MSNBC or NBC News. I can't tell the difference. They get very confused between these different corporations covering, Russiagate. Because this probe, it's a pretty big story and they can't just ignore it altogether. But I'm going to say ding every time she says something that's designed to basically paint this as being completely frivolous. All right, count the dings. Let's do. I wish I had I need a counter in the corner. That's what would be amazing. That's the next thing I need. That's when I get to the next level. The next level as a podcaster is when I actually have a counter in the corner. We just count how many different ways she tries to undercut any credibility to these allegations.
Ago, Hallie, when really the headlines were dominated by the Jeffrey Epstein controversy, and then
ding, because they weren't being dominated by you on Jeffrey Epstein when she's talking.
And the president was sort of trying to change the topic very obviously, ding. And in many different venues was trying to bring up these unsubstantiated claims ding. About the role he argues former President Obama had in the 2016 election and trying to suppress some information that he says ding. Would have been damaging if it had come to light. And so then you have the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, come to the White House briefing room, come to the podium and try to share some of this alleged new evidence. Ding. Well, now you have the Attorney General saying that they're going to try to take that information, which, remember, they had announced a strike force to look into what they call this new evidence and try to
call this new evidence. Ding.
Evaluate it to see if there could be any potential criminal indictments that they would follow. And the thing that matters here is that this is basically a grand jury investigation that's being launched, but that will happen in secret. This is
ding. They always happen in secret.
Behind closed doors, and it's completely unclear whether it will yield anything new. It's unclear that we
ding. We never know that.
Will ever learn anything new about it because it could be under seal, but it really does bear repeating. This is looking into something for which there is no evidence to back it up.
Ding.
And it's really, it seems, a politically motivated
ding
move to keep the focus on one of the president's clear political foes.
Ding.
And talk about basically anything else.
Ding. It's nothing here. There's nothing here. There's alleged evidence, alleged claims of alleged evidence of alleged things that there's nothing here. That's just to distract from Epstein that we did not care about at all until these claims came in. No one at NBC, I dare say that before Tulsi Gabbard came out there, nobody in NBC was talking about Epstein. Now that's all they can talk about. Oh, it's all about Epstein. It's all about Epstein. I'll give you someone else who wants to talk about Epstein rather than having people watch this interview. This clip here. This is supposedly from December 16th, 2016. I need oh, that's good. Like my hand's coming in now. That's flashback to December 16th, 2016. An interview with Barack Obama. Now, the reason why this is interesting is because he was president at the time. And in fact, this is just 1 week after he ordered his assessment to come in here, telling us all about how Trump was tied to Putin and Russia, and that it's all about that. And this is what Barack Obama was telling the world 1 week after ordering his intelligence community come back with a report that ties Trump to Russia and make sure we get it before January 20th.
Did the Russian hack of the Democratic National Committee and other targets actually...
Which never happened, has never been established that the Russians hacked the DNC. But that was something that was just accepted as a given. And to my mind, it is far more likely that there was never any hack at all and that just documents were leaked, probably without their agreement. But when they were leaked, and some people speculate that it was by Seth Rich, who was then murdered for that leak, that was labeled the Russian hack. But there's no evidence that a hack ever happened.
Affect the results of the election, in your view?
There's no doubt that it contributed to an atmosphere in which...
Look at how he measures. He's so into measuring his words.
The only focus for weeks at a time, months at a time, were Hillary's emails, the Clinton Foundation, political gossip.
I need to pause for a second. First and foremost, because I meant to bring up Barb Loves Alaska and her $20 chat rant that she said, let's not forget Trump saying, we caught them all. And in my mind, that's why the Mar-a-Lago raid happened. They wanted to find the evidence that Trump had. Just my opinion. I forgot that he said that. She's saying that that's what motivated them to come down into Mar-a-Lago, try and find those documents. Because they're afraid. They're afraid. That's the cover-up of the conspiracy. Nice. The reason I bring this up is because the reason I felt I felt an impetus to, not impotence, impetus to bring that up is because you're saying, I don't think you saw my pre-show super chat, and it's not to be counted for the goal. It's because I'm a gay, black, Hispanic Jew. Yes, it's the Jewish part especially. I don't see it anywhere here. I don't see it. I don't see any super chat at all. I even went all the way up to the top. I went all the way to the top. I don't know what to tell you. I went all the way to the top. It's supposed to be there. I believe you. I don't see it. I addressed your claim in the beginning. Brian, my man, thank you, my brother. You're awesome. God bless.
Surrounding the DNC, and that whole swirl that ended up dominating the news meant that, number one, issues weren't talked about a lot in the coverage. Huge policy differences.
What issues were not talked about? What issues were not talked about?
Were not debated. And
this was not about issues. That election was, who do I like less? That was the entire election. Who do I like less? Issues not debated. They were literally the two least popular candidates in American history squaring off. And in that sense, Hillary won. If it was a race for who's loved less, Hillary won that hands down.
Vetted. Elections can always turn out differently. You never know which factors are going to make a difference. But I have no doubt that it had some impact. Everyone now acting
had some impact. Did it? Did it? How did it have an impact? What way?
Surprised by
So what information came out in the leak? Do you remember any information from the leaked documents that you're saying, well, now I'm voting for Trump? What are you talking about?
The CIA assessment that this was done purposely to.
Here we go. He's sowing the seeds. I got a report that's coming out in a couple of weeks.
Improve Trump's chances. And my only point was that shouldn't be treated as a blockbuster because that was the worst kept secret in this town. Everybody understood that. It was reported on. It's a pretty clear inference that people would draw and did draw that this was helping the Trump campaign and it was hurting the Hillary campaign.
But what did Russia do? What the hell did Russia do?
The president-elect has been very honest about his admiration for Putin and that he hopes to forge a more cooperative relationship with him. And
that's a good thing. He says that out loud. You only say it on hot mics in 2012.
Focus on the threat of Islamic terrorism. Then my only point was we shouldn't now suddenly act as if this is a huge revelation. Every intelligence agency in the federal
just because he said he wants to work with Russia doesn't mean Russia wanted him to win, though.
Government arrived at a consensus that the Russians had hacked the DNC.
That never happened. No. In fact, they later would do a whole investigation. They spent like a year trying to prove that it was hacked by Russia. And they had independent analysis come in there. And they were like, we have no evidence this was ever hacked at all.
And the information that was now being released was as a consequence of a decision by Russian intelligence and Russian officials at the highest levels.
He's making this up like as he goes. Literally, like your pants are on fire. That's the expression a man makes when his pants are on fire. Oh my God. Such a crook.
So what the CIA is now assessing, which was it was done purposefully to tilt the election in the direction of a particular candidate.
Now, they haven't even come out with their assessment yet. And he also knows about the presidential daily briefing that got scuttled, that was dated December 8th, which said they neither cared who won nor had any capacity to do anything. He saw that a week earlier, made sure it was buried so Trump wouldn't see it, and then comes out on this day. That was on December 8th. That was supposed to be shared with Trump on December 9th. They're like, no, don't share that with him. 1 week earlier, Trump was supposed to know that this is complete BS. No one else knew about this at the time when he goes on TV and has this interview. No one knows about this presidential daily briefing other than him and his stupid corrupt intelligence heads. That this is a complete and total lie. He is lying to the American people right here.
It was done purposefully to tilt the election in the direction of a particular candidate. Shouldn't be a surprise to anybody, and in fact isn't a surprise to anybody.
After the interview, he comes back. Let me tell you a little bit more BS about this topic.
You had something you wanted to add?
When we're discussing the issue of the Russia hack, I think it is worth noting that when it comes to the motivations
that it never happened and
of the Russians, that there are still a whole range of assessments taking place among the agencies. And so when I receive a final report, we'll be able to,
which I've already told them what they must write in their final report.
I think give us a comprehensive and best guess as to those motivations. But that does not in any way, I think, detract from the basic point that everyone during the election perceived accurately that
perceived accurately. He knows this is not true.
in fact, what the Russian hack had done was create more problems for the Clinton the Clinton campaign than it had for the Trump campaign.
I think you're stopping short of endorsing the CIA conclusion that the hack was designed to help Donald Trump as opposed to some other objective.
Well, I think the point I'm making is that right now what you've had are CIA leaks, not an official document.
CIA leaks, which actually said the exact opposite, but only he knows that. So instead, there's what they leaked to the press, which was complete opposite of truth.
And I think it's important for the process of various agencies comparing notes and thinking about these assessments, because it's not as if in any of these circumstances, you just have a signed letter
I forgot how much he loves to talk and say virtually nothing concrete. That's so much what his whole speaking style was about. I'm going to talk, and when I'm done, all you can do is just try and guess what I was trying to say without me ever actually saying anything concrete. This is why I talk about how he was so insidious in his messaging, because it's almost impossible to figure out what the hell he's trying to say. I'm not saying that this is classic Obama. I'm not saying specifically that the Russians helped Trump, but there's no other conclusion that anyone who likes him could draw from this. No other logical conclusion other than obviously the Russians helped Trump.
Regarding Russian intentions that's floating around. These are all assessments made based on a wide range of evidence and different.
Nope. Not a wide range of evidence. The only evidence he had was the Steele dossier.
Different agencies are still looking at all that stuff, gathering it together, and hopefully putting it into a single package. That's precisely why I've asked that report to be issued before the 20th, so that
Trump doesn't bury my BS.
Those aspects of it, at least that are not classified, can be presented in some form to the public. Those aspects of it that are classified can be presented, as we've consistently done, on a bipartisan basis to the members of Congress and the relevant committees.
What the hell does that even mean? What the hell does that even mean? It is Barry word salad. That's exactly what it is. It's Barry word salad. Brian Oldenkamp hitting me with 10 new members of the following. God bless you. Who'd you bring on in here? I need to know who our new companions are. Who are the following 10 people were gifted memberships into the following. I'll explain what that means in just a moment. Courtesy of Brian Oldenkamp. That would include Spud 6423, Todd McDonough, D Stunner 776, Chrissy 93, Hudson. Where am I at? I lost it. It jumped on me. No, I need to know who's in. I need to know. Oh, here we go. Tax Shadermist. Ken Phillip 2473, Caprat, Alex C. Rec, Hey Zoo 9TV, and Shuldish 94494. Welcome to the following. What does that mean? Is this like does that mean you're part of some sort of cult or something like that? Because when you say the following, it sounds a little bit like nope, it's not at all a cult type of cult. There's no Kool-Aid, no virgin sacrifices, throwing them into volcanoes. We don't do that. No goat sacrifices, no squirrel mutilations, no dance around bonfires, the beat of a tom-tom going hey yo, while shucking off your clothing in the middle of a forest. No spaceships, mild farm work, no mandatory tracksuits. It's not at all a cult type of cult. It's just It's just a group of like-minded individuals who care about greater personal growth through community unity and learning and thinking. So welcome to following, you guys, and it would be most appropriate if you can express your gratitude to Brian Oldenkamp for bringing you on in here because he is awesome. One of my many awesome followers. So thank you, Brian. Reformed convict who has been a member of the following for 20 months, and you can see how he's become reformed. He used to just be convict. Now he's reformed convict. It's working. Us diggers goals, no more buts. What? I thought you were reformed. There is no buts. There's no butt stuff. And you get approval from Trump for escape tunnels so the Secret Service stopped shooting at us lowly diggers. I saw this clip about how speaking of Secret Service, I didn't realize it was old. I saw this video, which I thought was really funny, where basically it was talking about how Trump fired his DEI hires from Secret Service, and then a court said, you're not allowed to fire these people. So instead, he reassigned them to Obama and Biden and Clinton, and they're like, we don't want these people. I don't know how I never covered that. I don't know how I never ended up covering that. But yes, that's pretty fun. I don't know if it happened. Maybe that's why I didn't cover it. It was just a video I saw with like a blurb and the guy talking. And I'm like, I don't know if this is true. That's pretty funny. If you want to expand the cult, there's a former cult building down the street that's available. Just let me know. Is there? Is there? Our options are expanding. All right. We have many options. Many options. Yeah. So anyhow, bottom line is if there's any further developments with the grand jury, we're only going to know it if and when indictments drop. That's when you would know it. So we don't know what part of the country they're in. That's obviously a critical element to the potential success of any indictments that may drop. And at the very least, the fact that this seems to be confirmed that this is happening is a very positive step, which we should cheer and say, huzzah, yay, go get them, go get them. All right. We need to talk a little bit now about Texas gerrymandering and what is happening with their state legislature, which is not in a good mood. This story is a little confusing, and I'm going to simplify it so by the time we're all done, everyone's going to be on the same page as to exactly what the hell is happening here. So there is a concept called gerrymandering. If you're unfamiliar with the term, most of you probably know what the term means, but for the handful of you who may not know or may be too shy to ask, I will explain it to you. Gerrymandering is where politicians, when they draw up a map to say what district you're in, what part of the country, when you're voting for your local representatives, where we're putting you, that your house, your domain, your residence is considered part of this district. Gerrymandering is the notion of carving the map in a particular type of way, which the carvers of said map are hopeful that will lead to an increased likelihood that their party will receive more seats, where they basically able to apportion and mix in various based primarily on demographic or perhaps voting history, where it is that they're going to find a whole bunch of Democrats. Well, it's like they don't all happen to live in the same square block. Some of them branch off this way and then up north and this way and that way. So when you gerrymander, all of a sudden congressional districts just look very, very funky instead of being your little easy cutouts or close to being easy cutouts. They are very funky looking type of deals. I'll give you an example of like a gerrymandered map. Okay. If you look at here's a picture of a gerrymandered map where you're just like, what the hell is happening here? What is happening? When you look at this map, these are different districts. See how this district comes up this way and then down that way, down over here. You're like, I don't know. This is in Illinois. This is gerrymandered in a way that is designed to ensure to sort of weird. Look at these different interesting shapes that they make. A little cutout over here. It's like it's designed. Look at this. Look at this one. This one just sticks up over here. We're all the way down over here. We got a whole bunch of Republicans. But if we can manage to get this part of the south side of Chicago over here and make that part of the district, they will vote and outweigh all the folks down here. And all of a sudden, the people down here will now have a Democrat. See how that's working there? So we're going to take from the south side of Chicago and then attach that through this little skinny arm down to over here where there's like a little, it's pretty purplish area. And the next thing you know, this purplish area is very blue. That's called gerrymandering. Now, I want to be crystal clear about this. Both Republicans and Democrats gerrymander. This is not something that is unique to either party. Both parties are notorious that when they are in power, they will try to gerrymander as best possible to ensure themselves as much power, as political power as possible. It's an extra seat that now you get that you wouldn't otherwise have, right? Because otherwise this one is probably going to go red. But now if we stick in enough people from Chicago, so they're basically going to take Chicago and try and just send these, instead of having 4 million votes in just Chicago all going blue, they're like, let's share Chicago with different parts of let's share Chicago with different parts of Illinois to try and spread out that yummy Democrat goodness from their perspective all over the state. That's gerrymandering. Again, I want to be crystal clear. This is not unique to Democrats. Republicans are notorious for doing the same thing. If you ask me my opinion about gerrymandering, this is the one area where I diverge strenuously from the conservative part of the bench, because the conservative part of the bench is very much in favor, or if not in favor, certainly tolerant of the idea of gerrymandering. Specifically, we can look to a 2019 case called Rucho. Well, I'm going to call it Rucho. Rucho, it's definitely not right, but we're going to call it that. Rucho v. et al. V. Common Cause. If you look at this decision here, which is a decision that was carried, the day was carried by the conservative court. And I'm going to tell you, I disagree with this decision because I'm secure enough in myself as a person to say I don't always have to agree with Clarence Thomas, and I still recognize him as being brilliant. But the interesting thing about Rucho v. Common Cause is that this was something that you had both Democrats and Republicans were complaining about the other side. Voters and plaintiffs in North Carolina and Maryland filed suits challenging their state's congressional districting maps as unconstitutional partisan gerrymanders. The North Carolina plaintiffs claimed that the state's districting plan discriminated against Democrats. The Maryland plaintiffs claimed that their state's plan discriminated against Republicans. The plaintiffs alleged violations of the First Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, the Election Clause, Article 1. District courts in both cases ruled in favor of the plaintiffs, and the defendants appealed directly to this court. Okay, what do they hold? In short, partisan gerrymandering claims present political questions beyond the reach of the federal courts. That's really it. You can stop right there. Because what does that mean? It means we have no power here. This is a political thing. We have no power. States are going to do what states are going to do, and we're not going to do anything about it, and the federal courts are not supposed to do anything about it. That's what this is the decision right here. I mean, it goes on for 72 pages, but the reality is this is the decision. If you ask me my opinion, this is one of the rare times that I would agree with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who dissented from this particular decision. Yes, it's true. And Sotomayor and Kagan and all them folk. In these cases, the court is asked to decide an important question of constitutional law. Before it does so, the court must find the question is presented in a case or controversy that is of a judiciary nature. Citing Daimler Chrysler case, while it is the province and duty of the judicial department to say what the law is, sometimes the law is what the judiciary cannot entertain a claim because it presents a non-justiciable political question. Among the political questions this case has identified are those that lack judicially discoverable and manageable standards for resolving them. Now, I will agree with the court and with the majority on this thing. it's very, 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 very hard to figure out a way that you can set a bright line rule which would really work. I grant that. And I feel as if perhaps the court punted because they're like, we have no idea how to set a rule here. This is something that it's the Wild West, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking about the left or the right. It's the Wild West as to how gerrymandering works. And for us to start trying to figure this out is kind of crazy. So I get that it's a difficult thing, but still, it's got to be, you would think there's got to be some limit. This court's partisan gerrymandering cases have left unresolved the questions whether such claims are claims of legal rights. What they've said in the past before this is you can't discriminate. You can't use it to discriminate. So that's why when this case was brought, it was brought under the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, the Election Clause in Article 1, subsection 2. But really, when you look at the Equal Protection Clause saying, hey, they're doing this, the left would continue to scream, they're doing this to deprive black people of a right to their power of their votes. The court basically said, we're going to let them keep doing this. And again, the Republicans and Democrats have been notorious that if they have enough power, they're going to do this. Partisan gerrymandering was known in the colonies prior to independence. The framers were familiar with it at the time of the drafting of the Constitution, and they addressed the election representatives of Congress in the Elections Clause, assigning to state legislatures the power to prescribe the times, place, and manner of holding elections. So they specifically said, look, states are going to figure this out for themselves, while giving Congress the power to make or alter any such regulations. Congress has regularly exercised its election clause power, including to address partisan gerrymandering, but the framers did not set aside all electoral issues as questions that only Congress can resolve in two areas: one person, one vote, and racial gerrymandering. This court has held that there is a role for the courts with respect to at least some issues that could arise from a state's drawing of congressional districts. But the history of partisan gerrymandering is not irrelevant. Aware of electoral districting problems, the framers chose a characteristic approach assigning the issue to state legislatures, expressly checked and balanced by the federal Congress, with no suggestions that the federal courts had a role to play. So, federal Congress, if you want to pass a statute to stop the state legislatures from doing this, go ahead, have at it. Maybe that'll be, maybe you'll pass a law that we'll recognize as being consistent with the Constitution. Courts have nevertheless been called upon to resolve a variety of questions surrounding districting, but no more. Population equality among districts in Baker v. Carr, and racial discrimination in districting also raises constitutional issues that can be addressed by federal courts. But for the most part, that's very rare they're able to prove that it's a racial thing. Partisan gerrymandering claims have proved far more difficult to adjudicate, in part because a jurisdiction may engage in constitutional political gerrymandering, meaning they won't use the fact that they're black. They'll use the fact that, hey, on this row of blocks, everyone has voted Republican for the last 7 elections or voted Democrat for the last 7 elections. So irrespective of what color they are, irrespective of what their religion is, that's just how they vote. So anyhow, that is the law. So in short, for the most part, with exceptions, I guess, to the extent that it can be proven that there's some sort of racial bias that's going on there, you can pretty much say that gerrymandering has been sanctioned by the court. I will also just repeat one last time, I do not like that decision. I think that's kind of crazy, although I can respect the fact that, hey, if there's no law for them to rely on, then it's not justiciable. And perhaps Congress should pass a law to stop gerrymandering. Good luck getting that through. So that's my overall take on this. Basically, I don't like gerrymandering, but I am pragmatic enough to recognize that they're going to do it. The other side is going to do it. How do I know they're going to do it? Because they always have. Every time they had an opportunity to gerrymander in a way that they thought would enrich their power, they've done it. So, yeah, I don't like the practice, but I can understand that if your adversary is using a weapon, they come into the ring carrying a knife and you say, no, that's not sporting. I'm just going to use my bare fists. That's very noble of you and also very stupid. So sometimes you sort of have to nobility has to give way to pragmatic to pragmatism. And this is an area where I say, yeah, you got to gerrymander. If it's in the rules, it's basically in the rules that this is okay. You're an idiot if you don't, because we see every time we don't take advantage of a rule, the other side will, and they'll use it to bludgeon you. So, yeah, I don't like it. I wish the rules were changed, but until the rules are changed, you need to use the rules that you are playing with. The same way I would tell you you're an idiot if you're trying to win the popular vote rather than trying to win the right number of electors. I would tell you similarly, you're an idiot if you don't gerrymander. The primary distinction being that I think Electoral College is brilliant and good and should always stay there forever compared to the popular vote, which is terrible, awful. Oh my God, that would be a disaster. But you understand my point. You have to understand a smart person understands the environment that you're swimming in and then maximizes efficiency in order to best accomplish their goals in that particular set of environment. Saying, don't hate the player, hate the game. So, yeah, that's the game. And as it happens, I might not like this particular rule, but it's a rule. So play by the rule. And that's why we now come to what's happening in Texas, because in Texas, they're in the process of trying to redistrict for the purpose of basically screwing over the Democrats because the Republicans have sufficient power there. And they're trying to redistrict. Democrats are not too pleased about this. Let's hear from some Democrats complaining about that. We'll start with Governor Newsom, who's done his own redistricting himself. Oh, let me get this real fast. Jay Schroeder did a pre-show super. Also, the grand jury is being run by newly confirmed U.S. attorney for the SDFL. Be a mention, redirect to your pal Jim. All right, I can do that. Southern District of Florida? Really? Really? That's awesome. Oh, thank God. Oh, that is so good. That is like literally the last jurisdiction that they want to be in. That is the last jurisdiction that is the last jurisdiction on earth that Democrats want to be in is in Florida. Oh my God. Imagine if they end up back in front of Judge Eileen Cannon. Wow. They will crap their pants. They will crap their, oh my gosh, the stench. The foul stench of DC will just go to like level 11. Because there'll be so, if it's in the sun, who is the newly confirmed? Who is the newly confirmed? I'm asking ChatGPT. U.S. Attorney, District of Florida. No, that's a judge. U.S. Attorney. Judge Jason Redding Quinones. I'm going to assume that this is accurate. This is. Let's get a picture of this guy. Let's find out about him. I didn't see that. Oh, I'm liking this guy already. I'm liking this guy already. You just look at this guy and screams based. Oh my God. Look at him. Look at him. Oh my God. He looks like a cartoon of a base guy. February 16, President Donald Trump nominated FIU law class of 2008 alum Jason A. Redding Quinones as the next U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida after serving as an assistant U.S. Attorney for 7 years. Currently serves as a state trial judge on the Miami-Dade County Court. Previously, he served as an attorney advisor for the U.S. Department of Justice National Security Division. Prior to his service with the Department of Justice, he was a judge advocate. You can't handle the truth in the U.S. Air Force. Mr. Redding Quinones continues to serve as a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force Reserve. He's lieutenant colonel also, prior to attending FIU. Mr. Redding Quinones received a bachelor's degree with the University of Florida with a BA in anthropology with a minor in military sciences. I'm liking this guy. I'm liking it. I am liking it. Thank you for sharing that, Jim. All right, now I'll redirect. Now you earned the this time you really earned the redirect. Let me take care of that real fast here. Redirect, customization, redirect, add. All right. Let me get to a couple of these real fast. Gerrymandering was coined in 1812 after Governor Elbridge Gerry of the Democratic Republican Party signed a redistricting law in Massachusetts. Oh, thank you. I didn't know that. Thank you, KPT. I appreciate that. But only Democrats gerrymander. Gerrymandering is by race, which is against the law. See the 14th Amendment, the Louisiana lawsuit, the Equal Rights Amendment, and the Voter Rights Bill. I said that it could be illegal. It's very hard to prove it, though. If you can still vote, they aren't taking away your right. When the court decides beyond that, they're choosing a political question, not right. So you agree with them. I think there should be a way for us to shut this down because it seems insane. It seems insane. There has to be certain limits. You saw that map with reaching up into the southern districts. It's so unfair to like people who are living outside Chicago that it's like all of a sudden we're just tied in. They're going to tie us into the south side of Chicago so that we're going to end up getting a blue. They're going to just outvote us. It's insanity. It's really crazy. Well, anyway, here's Crocodile Tears Newsom.
I think there should be a national framework for independent redistricting, period, full stop. I mean, gerrymandering, and let's be fair, we've seen this weaponized by both parties for decades.
Yeah, you've done it yourself.
But these guys, this is a whole nother level of weaponization coming from the right.
Oh,
what
yeah.
Trump did today
whole nother
is
level.
The ultimate tell. They feel they're on the ropes. They feel they're behind. They feel they're...
Oh, they don't feel like they're on the... Why? Why would they feel they're behind? You have no power. They feel they're behind.
Vulnerable with the big, beautiful bill. They feel like the momentum is shifting away from them.
Yeah.
And it's Speaker Jeffries. It's not Speaker Johnson. So on that basis, they... got to rig the game. You got to change the game because you can't win by the existing rules. So he goes in and talks to these guys that should be focused on flood preparedness, should be focused on restoring NOAA and the weather investments that they need to make and the resiliency
weather investments
efforts to talk about getting.
You're one to talk about that? You're one to talk about that? Dude, get water to LA. They still carrying water to LA by bucket? We have a lot of people passing buckets down to LA. You sorted that problem out, buddy.
FEMA back on track and how little accountability with Kristi Noem and some of those early decisions that were made or not made.
Decisions made or not made. Let's look at Los Angeles. Are you buying up all those properties now, you son of a bitch? You such a shady huckster. He's a huckster. That's what he is. This dude is such a freaking huckster.
Instead, they're using that special session to weaponize for the next election. And that should scare the hell out of everybody.
Oh, everybody.
Because these guys are playing by a different set of rules.
Different set of rules. Are they arresting folks for like made up charges? Like the 34 counts in New York? Because that's a different set of rules. Seriously, where the hell were you screaming about that, jackass?
So from my perspective, if we're going to play fair in a world that is wholly unfair.
If we actually had proper closed captioning on this, it would literally be a bunch of that's all you would see. Just hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. because this jackass is out of his mind. I don't know what's wrong with him. Seriously, you're talking about weather issues and proper preparedness and breaking the rules and claiming that the right is on the ropes. Oh my God. Yeah.
We may have the higher moral ground, but the ground is shifting from underneath us. And I think we have to wake up to that reality. And I'm talking to members of my legislature, what are our alternatives? We can do a special session. I can call for one today if I chose to. We can then put something on the ballot, and I could call a special election. We could change the Constitution with the consent of the voters. And I think we would win that. I think people understand what's at stake.
He's trying to basically threaten. If you do this, I'm going to do. He done everything he can. He's milked gerrymandering out as far. He's wrung that out. This is like someone who has basically, punched his. It's a bully who has already punched his enemy into submission, as far as in the only ring he has, because he's basically coming in there armed by like 47 bodyguards, in the sense that, he, as far as the power, the political power he has in his particular state, and he's wrung every little bit of juice he can out of it, can't anymore. And now that he sees that there's another state which is basically doing something similar to the Democrats, he's like, well, if you do this, I'm going to beat up some more people in California. You're beating them up as far as you can. You got nothing left. See, it would be a threat if you hadn't already done it, but you have.
California, I think would come out in record numbers. I think it would be extraordinary success. That's a clean way of doing it. Be a very short window, because you got to come back with the maps and you got to change all this and prepare for the ballots that are around the corner next year. Or you can look at other avenues, which we are exploring, which are pathways with the legislature to do urgency clauses with 2/3 of the legislature in both of our houses to move forward with legislative redistricting.
If you had the votes to do any more than you could, you would have done it. There's no way that he is in any way, shape, or form hasn't already done everything. You've shot the dilithium crystals already. That's the problem. You shot the dilithium crystals and you're pretending they're still in the chamber.
In between the constitutional construct, which is every census, the Independent Redistricting Commission does a new map, but it's silent about what happens in between. So
it's like that in all 50 states.
It's a novel legal question, and it's being explored.
Yeah. So that's Pod Save America, the Crooked Podcast. I guess that's the aptly named Crooked Podcast. All right, so there's one lefty crying about it. Here's a lefty who's all excited by Gavin Newsom, doesn't realize that Gavin's already shot these dilithium crystals. And if you don't know the reference, I'm not going to explain it. It's meant for nerds like me.
We have some huge news right now. Governor Gavin Newsom has confirmed privately to aides, according to the Texas Tribune, that he is going to redistrict California.
He got it.
To counter anything that is done in Texas. There have been a lot of discussions back and forth over whether Newsom would actually go through with this. But today's maps in Texas show that Texas Republicans are gearing up to eliminate 5 Democratic-held congressional seats.
Yep.
California has 9 Republican-held seats.
Hopefully Jasmine Crockett's one of them.
Theoretically, the legislature could gerrymander or redistrict California to the point where Republicans lose most, if not all, of those seats, which means that it would completely counterbalance anything Texas is doing. Now, here's the thing, folks. Gerrymandering, whether done by a Republican or a Democrat, is unconstitutional and violates the law.
Wrong.
But as long as it's done within the Voting Rights Act situation, essentially, it's fine. And the Supreme Court has previously upheld gerrymandering in a number of states. But if Texas Republicans are
for both Democrats and Republicans, as recently as 2019,
do it now, California Democrats are going to do it, and it's going to be this back.
It's already been done. Well, they're going to do it
forth across the country. So spread the word and follow along for more.
Follow along for more bad intel. All right. Very excited. He's very excited. Things are happening. Things are happening. I don't know what, but things are happening. is a reaction to that. Cryberry alert. Newsom bulls, they cheated first while plotting California gerrymander. Gavin Newsom just announced California's new moral standard. We'll only cheat if Texas cheats first. It's cause and effect. Newsom sobbed, explaining his trigger plan to gerrymander California. Texas redraws their maps. Translation, Mommy, he started. The man claiming to defend democracy is literally threatening to rig elections, while Texas Democrats flee the state like toddlers running from nap time. We're not going to roll over, he wailed, preparing to do exactly what he's crying about. Nothing says principled leadership. Like, I'll only be corrupt if they are.
Things have changed. We're reacting to that change. They've triggered this response, and we're not going to roll over. And we're going to fight fire with fire. But we're going to do so not just punching with the weight of the fourth largest economy, the most populous state in our union, the size of 21 state populations combined, but we also will punch above our weight in terms of the impact of what we're doing. And I think that should be absorbed by those in the Texas delegation. Whatever they are doing will be neutered here in the state of California. And they will pay that price. And we believe public opinion is with our approach. And I appreciate the growing recognition in other states of other governors of like mind and the people of this country recognizing what's at stake. These folks don't play by the rules. If they can't win playing the game with the existing set of rules, they'll change the rules. That's what Donald Trump has done. He's dialing for seats. Familiar because he dialed for votes in the last election. Here's someone who tried to break this country, tried to light democracy on fire on January 6th. He recognizes he's going to lose in the midterms, and we have the opportunity.
Yeah, okay. So he will lose in the midterms, but that's not because of, that's only because the sitting president always loses seats in the midterms. That's just the way it goes. I want to correct myself because I had seen that he had gerrymandered in the past, and I actually want to correct myself because when I asked ChatGPT about this and I wanted to break down how he had gerrymandered, I actually say they're claiming that he has not yet gerrymandered. So I want to correct that so I'm not so I don't ever mislead my audience. And so now I have corrected that. Apparently he has not yet gerrymandered, that the rules in California make it difficult to gerrymander. That's why he was talking about restructuring, how they have their how they do their districting in California. I still say I don't care. California is going to do what they're going to do. It's not like if once an idea pops in their head as to how they can enrich themselves with power, they're going to do it anyway. At this point, I want Texas to go ahead and do your gerrymandering. Let everyone do it. Gerrymander away. But I'm glad I actually checked that out because I'd seen it elsewhere and apparently I was mistaken. And if I don't correct myself, I would feel like crap after I'm finished here. So, Century, bro. God bless you, brother. Dropping a century on me. Thank you so very, very much. I really appreciate the very generous super chat. Yeah. So I guess I'm gonna definitely count that more. I should count. It's appropriate to count that more. Crockett is one of them. Yeah. Maybe that's why they're so bothered. Maybe that's why they're so bad. Dude, the lithium crystals power the space lasers. It's ancient Chinese secret. We don't tell. We don't talk about what powers the space lasers. Allegan says if Connect to Raid Canon could get a case since the court gives cases with the same people and facts to the judge already on that case. Judicial efficiency. It would be hilarious. Oh my god. So he's saying if it's connected to the Mar-a-Lago raid, that would be a reason for them to give it to Judge Cannon. Oh my God, the left would be crapping themselves. Oh my God, that'd be so good. That would be so good. Oh, I would love to see Judge Cannon handling that case. Oh my God, that base prosecutor and Judge Cannon make quite the couple. I'm also really excited to hear this. Crockett is one. That's why they're crying. They're all trying to save Crockett's job. All right, so let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about what's going on as to like the reaction from the Democrat legislature.
Well, it's hilarious, Harris, to see these Democrats talk about moral clarity and rigging the system.
I haven't really made it clear, so I should make this clear. When the House Democrats, Texas legislature saw that they're going to be having a vote about changing to a gerrymandered map, what they did was they bolted. They left. Why? Why would they leave? Because they left because they basically took with them roughly 50 seats. And there's 150 seats in their state house. In order to have a quorum, you need to have 2/3. And by all of them leaving en masse, there was no quorum. Without a quorum, they couldn't conduct any official business. So in order to stop any votes from happening that they knew they would lose, they said, we're going to skunk this vote by marching out of here. And then we're going to basically flee and not be here. And that way there can be no official business because you don't have a quorum. Without a quorum, nothing can happen. So that's why they basically bolted. Abbott responded by basically threatening that he's going to have them thrown in jail. There's also talk about whether they can be removed from their seats. And that's the element of law that I want to break down for you. Can he throw them in jail? Is that likely to happen? Can they be removed? What would that process look like? And that's what I want to try and break down for you, the law on that part of it, because I feel like that's law that few people probably are covering. And if I can help enlighten you and make you better educated and perhaps get a couple of yucks along the way, all the better. So, but let's break down this story a little bit more fact-wise before we get into some of the law.
Because all of this unfairness was actually started by Democrats, and it was started by Democrats right here in California. People say that when you see this playing out between the
This is where I thought I heard this thing about gerrymandering in California.
States, it's a tit for tat. If Texas moves first, then Illinois and California will respond and so on. No, it was California that started this. In 2008, the people of California voted for an independent commission to draw the legislative districts. What did Democrats do in California? They hijacked and corrupted that process, and they gerrymandered California districts to steal 12 House seats from Republicans. That's what started all this. That's what made it.
I knew I heard something about that. So it wasn't Newsom who gerrymandered. I'm glad I found this. I knew I'd seen this. I was like, I could have sworn I heard that there was gerrymandering in California. This is where I saw that. It wasn't Newsom who did it, but it was wrung out. So that wet towel was wrung out. Those lemons were wrung out by the Democrats in California already. That's the point I was getting at.
Not a level playing field. And so when Gavin Newsom, who's now saying that if Texas goes ahead, he's going to call a special election to overturn the California Constitution to steal another 5 House seats from Republicans, I'm saying no to that. I've been in conversation with my lawyers all weekend. We've got the legal basis now, and we're going to be announcing this tomorrow to stop Gavin Newsom if he tries to go ahead with his further gerrymandering of the district. So we've got to realize who started this. It was Democrats.
And I want to be clear. I don't think it was exclusively Democrats. I really don't. I think it was a nice blend of Democrats and Republicans who were gerrymandering. Dilithium crystals are used to regulate the antimatter matter in a warp drive. You don't shoot them. Okay, clearly you forgot episode of Galileo 7 where Spock ejected the dilithium crystals in a last-ditch effort for the Enterprise to spot them so they didn't get stuck in space as they would slowly lose their power. Instead, they left a trail behind for the Enterprise to spot them, come back, and pick them up. So, yeah, that I know you don't typically shoot the dilithium crystals. but you can eject them. Don't question me on Star Trek, the original series. Joe, check locals. I posted a large thing about there was going on in Texas, including stuff that isn't talked about in the media. I am going to check that out now. Oh, that's, wow. Zellian telling me. Joe, to add a little more background to what is going on, you have 8 cases that have been folded into LULAC v. Abbott, redistricting. It gives me a link here that is suing over the 2021 maps. Also, can you explain how the 1965 Voters Act right is valid when Section says that one thing you must consider for minority district is race? You can thank Andrew for pointing it out in his stream this weekend. I'm assuming you mean Branka. I haven't looked at the 1965 Voters' Right Act, so I sort of feel a little green in that area. I'm not going to kid you. I was really going to focus more on the Texas law than the 1965 Voters Act. That's what I was looking at in preparation for this show. That's what I really wanted to break down. So I'll see if I have time. We'll see. That's my answer to that. SoCal here. Cheers, fam. Love good logic. Ah, thank you. I'm trying, and I hope that you don't get redistricted. Although if you're in Southern California, you're probably in a district that's as blue as mine. Living under the yoke of oppression of Democrats. But thank you so much. Redistricting boards still lean left. It should be left to local representatives that you vote for. No one voted for the board they're appointed to. That's what I assume. I assume they probably milk the hell out of it as it is. That's why I'm like, are they really going to be able to squeeze another 5 out? That's what they say. That's what they say. They really be able to squeeze another 5 seats out? Maybe. I guess it's possible. Crockett is losing it. You should pull some of her clips. I'll try to tag you on your Twitter account. I'll try to check for that. I'll try to check back for that. Thank you, Kimmy. USAID propped up DNC donors. Now it's gone. And the billionaire donor class know they can no longer prop up the DNC up on their own. Yep. They are. That's part of the reason they've been freaking out as hard as they have. So the Texas Democrats use the same tactic the NSDAP used to force Hindenburg to name Adolf chancellor. Interesting. Nice. Look at the history buffs I've got in my chat here. Very impressive. Even Chuck Todd, though, is not too impressed with the Democrats. Even Chuck Todd, not too impressed with the Democrats. Not much more impressed than I have such sites to show you. Which, not going to kid you, bro. Name's a little creepy, as is the picture. But I like the message you're bringing.
It seems as if the strategy is bring more attention to this, make everybody uncomfortable, right? The more painful you make the process in Texas, the more it's hard to replicate. Maybe they may be their own colleagues aren't as interested in this. Congressional Republicans that serve in Texas, whose districts are actually going to get impacted negatively, also secretly are kind of hoping this goes away too. And I think they think the more painful they can make this in doing it, maybe there's a way to shut this down. So I understand the strategy, and I think you get this. The part that I think is sort of bad, I think it's a bad look for a party that claims to be always trying to protect the democracy, is to hole up in a state that gerrymanders. The state of Illinois. I mean, one of the worst, look, Texas, Florida, Illinois, and Maryland. Those are your 4 giant gerrymandered states. And if you're trying to make a point on gerrymandering, I don't think I'd be going to the state of Illinois as a place to hide.
Which is what they've done. Governor Pritzker has said that he'll protect them if they go there. They won't be arrested in Illinois, according to Governor Pritzker. Hey, Governor Pritzker is here. Sorry. Was that racist? That was racist against fat people? Maybe. Okay, so, and just to draw that point, this is Illinois. Look at how they gerrymandered. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. It's unbelievable. 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 Anyhow. So let's talk about what's happening in Texas. Governor Abbott ordered Texas Department of Public Safety to arrest delinquent House Democrats. Governor Greg Abbott today ordered the arrest of delinquent Texas House Democrats. Quote, Texas House Democrats abandoned their duties to Texans, said Governor Abbott. By fleeing the state, Texas House Democrats are holding hostage critical legislation to aid flood victims and advance property tax relief. There are consequences for dereliction of duty. Speaker Dustin Burrows just issued a call of the Texas House and issued warrants to compel members to return to the chamber. To ensure compliance, I ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to locate, arrest, and return to the House chamber any member who has abandoned their duty to Texans. This order will remain in effect until all missing Democrat House members are accounted for and brought to the Texas Capitol. So that's what motivated Governor Pritzker to say, come to Illinois, I'll keep you safe from arrest over here. So this way you can hide out here and not be compelled to come down to and count for a quorum in the Texas House legislature. However, that's not the end of it, because frankly, I think that if indeed Texas decides to try protecting the House legislature, that may potentially be a legally viable option. It certainly would be an effective stall tactic. You would have to go to court and have an order issued saying that because of notions of comity, not comedy, but comity, M-I-T-Y, that Illinois has to respect the laws of the state of Texas and not stand in their way with respect to conducting their own business. So notions of comity probably favor Texas, but that could take a while. Potentially, if you don't get an injunction in your favor, which you may or may not, you'd have to go to Illinois to get the order. I guess you could get the order theoretically in Texas and then have it entered in Illinois. I don't know. I'm not sure procedurally whether they would have to move in Illinois or move in Texas. That'd be an interesting question. Maybe you go to federal court. There's another way around this. So that's a legally complicated way, but there's another way that people are discussing that might involve Ken Paxton. What am I talking about with Ken Paxton? He is the Attorney General for the state of Texas, a very based individual who has a lot of political aspirations and has overcome a great deal of adversary. It's broken down here, and I'll explain further beyond what this article from Jonathan Turley says, which is, Illinois has long been a sanctuary state, but this is getting ridiculous. Yesterday, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker pledged to protect dozens of Texas lawmakers fleeing their state to shut down the legislature. It's all in an effort to prevent redistricting in the state. However, Texas Governor Abbott is pledging to arrest them and expel them from office. Both seem all in this game for Texas Hold'em. I like that little pun there, Jonathan. He's a good writer, Jonathan. A smart guy, a good writer. At least 100 members of the 150-member Texas House must be present to conduct business, and approximately 50 of the Democrats have left. Abbott said their commitment to voting as elected state officials is a duty and is not optional. Republican Governor Greg Abbott threatened to arrest and expel the Texas House Democrats who fled the state to avoid a redistricting vote if they did not return by Monday afternoon, which I don't think they have. Dozens of Texas Democratic state representatives arrived in Chicago Sunday night to stall the vote. Shortly after Abbott released his statement, the Texas House Democratic Caucus issued a simple response writing, "Come and take it." I don't think you need to come and take it, though, because I think you can actually do worse to them by having them removed, that they're no longer part of the state legislature. The statement also described Republicans' proposed districts, which would potentially secure 5 new GOP U.S. House seats in next year's midterm elections, as a racist mid-decade redistricting scheme, because everything's always racist. Abbott criticized the Democrats' dramatic departure, starting his call for them to return with "Real Texans don't run from a fight." Both Democratic and Republican-controlled legislatures are moving to gerrymandered districts to gain seats in the closely divided House of Representatives. In Texas, at least 100 members of the 150-member Texas House must be present to conduct business, so roughly 50 of the Democrats have fled. The lawmakers have been ordered to return to Texas Capitol by 3 p.m. on Monday to vote in the special session, or they will face removal from office. When the governor calls a special session, the Texas Constitution provides that the legislature shall meet. That's Texas Constitution, Article 3, Section 5. The governor is arguing that this is mandatory duty for legislators. This is where it gets sporty. The Texas Attorney General has issued opinion number KP0382 on the removal of missing Democrats from membership in Texas House. The Attorney General, Ken Paxton, maintains that, and this is the part I'm going to walk you through to explain it to you, whether a specific legislator abandoned his or her office such that a vacancy occurred will be a fact question for the court. Accordingly, he may file a quo warranto action, literally an action determined by what authority. Does a person still claim office? That's the Latin phrase quo warranto, meaning by what authority. You're claiming you're still a legislator. How can you claim that you are that when you've abandoned your post and refused to come in to do work? How are you still a legislator? Under this procedure, Paxton would seek a judicial declaration that these members have abandoned their offices and then fill their vacancies. In the meantime, Democrats have responded with their own chest pounding, with Pritzker, who hopes to run for president in 2028, declaring that he will protect the fugitive members. He declared this a righteous act by legislators to stop the political process. Yeah, that's very democratic of you. No more political processes. Very, very democratic. Not the first time this maneuver has been used. In 2011, Democratic state senators from Wisconsin fled to Illinois to block a vote on removing union rights for public workers. Texas Democrats have used this tactic in the past in 1979, 2003, and 2021. It was not successful in prior years in the long run. Not to be outdone, Abbott is warning the lawmakers accepting assistance or soliciting funds to evade the fines they will incur under House rules could be charged with bribery under state law, meaning I know you're going to start a GoFundMe. If you start a GoFundMe and figure, I'm going to get all these different donations, I'm going to charge you with bribery. He can also order additional special sessions until the Democrats return. As the standoff escalates, these novel legal questions may be heading to court. The effort to declare members as abandoned will take time, and time is short when it comes to redistricting, which is often subject to years of challenges. Democrats are clearly hoping that running the state will allow them to run out the clock. They may be right, and I agree. They may be right, because it could take time to have them removed. What may be more likely to succeed is the imposition of massive fines on the legislators. Ooh, if you're not here, we're going to hit you with a massive fine. And if you try raising your money and you give send go, I'm going to charge you with bribery. I've long been a critic of gerrymandering, you and me both, by both parties. However, it remains part of our political process. None of this is good for democracy. The self-professed champions of democracy are fleeing to avoid a democratic vote by the duly elected representatives of the public. While it's common for legislators to leave hearings and floor votes to deny quorums, members ordinarily yield to the mandatory votes of the body. Fleeing the state to scuttle the democratic process hardly makes you the modern personification of pubulus publicola. The problem, what does that term mean? Yeah, okay, that's some Latin beyond me. I'm not going to kid you. The problem is that our federal and state constitutional systems are based on Madisonian principles. All right. So I want to explain to you a little bit more about this process of having them removed so that we can be a little bit better informed, because this way we can sort of get a feel for whether or not this can work. Because can you imagine if all of a sudden there's basically 100 Republicans in the state legislature in Texas? That's kind of wild. This is what Ken Paxton wrote in 2021, again, when they left. The last time they left. So he issued this opinion in 2021, which is very relevant today. Dear Representative White, you asked two questions about whether the legislator has a constitutional right to break quorum and whether Texas law allows for determination that a legislator has vacated office, i.e. abandoned. Your questions arose in the context of the first called session of the 87th legislature, which began on July 8, 2021. The governor identified multiple subjects for the legislature to consider during the special session. On July 12th, 2021, numerous legislators left the state for the express purpose of depriving Texas House of a quorum, thereby prohibiting enactment of any legislation during the special session. The legislators stated they would not return to Texas until the 30-day special session ended. As a result, the legislature did not enact any legislation during the first called special session. The governor convened the second called session on August 7, 2021, and it's still in progress. He issued this on August 24th. So this is his perspective on the law. And you'll see that Ken Paxton is he's able to, one of the things that make him powerful as an attorney is his ability to express himself articulately and with clear thinking. I very much appreciate his writing because he's able to spell things out in the way attorneys are supposed to. Basically taking the law, doing it old school IRAC fashion. Here's the issue, here's the rule, application, conclusion. Here we go. Okay. The Texas Constitution requires a quorum of 2/3 of each House members to be present to enact legislation. So let's start with the basics. You definitely need to have 2/3. A public body, including the House legislature, must have a quorum present to conduct business. Generally, a quorum is a majority of the members of the body fixed by state statute, unless the law specifically provides otherwise for that body. And under ours, we need 2/3, which means that we need to have 100 members. Out of the 150, that's 2/3. So you have to have at least 100 members of the Texas House of Representatives to be present to conduct most business. In your first question, you asked whether the legislator has a constitutional right to break quorum. Since the submission of your question, litigation in multiple courts has arisen involving the constitutional rights of legislators who attempt to avoid a quorum. The Texas Supreme Court recently issued a mandamus related to one of these proceedings, concluding that the Texas Constitution empowers the House to compel the attendance of absent members. We can force you to come. In so holding, the court directed the district judge to rescind a temporary restraining order prohibiting the arrest of the absent legislators. But the underlying litigation raised the constitutional issues remain pending. It is policy of this office to refrain from issuing an attorney general opinion on questions that we know to be subject to pending litigation. I wonder what happened in that particular case. In Ray number slip 3. In Ray Abbott. Let's see if I can pull that up. I can find what happened in the end there. I think they ended up coming back, so it ended up being like a moot issue. So it may not have ever been resolved. If it becomes moot, they often will just say we're done and we're not going to give an opinion. This was a week earlier. So that's not going to be helpful. Because he's saying it's still pending on August 24th. He's saying a decision. In so holding, the court directed the district court to rescind the temporary restraining order. It is policy of this office to refrain. Fine. Okay. This policy, which has been in effect for more than 60 years, is based upon the fact the attorney general opinions, unlike those issued by courts of law, are advisory by nature. So I'm only telling you my perspective. I'm not telling you what the law is. By contrast, court decisions are binding unless and until they've been modified or overturned. Consequently, when a legal matter is being litigated, courts are generally the appropriate forum for resolving the issue. So I'm only giving you an opinion. I'm not telling you I can't tell you definitively what the law is. So we therefore decline to issue an opinion in response to your first question, but direct you to the Texas Supreme Court's recent ruling for guidance. And if we pull this up here again, let me just, he did reference it again. Should I pull it up again? Let's do a quick look. How long are you? 10 pages. That's a little bit of that's a lengthy side note here. The bottom line is that they in this order, the court said you can compel them to come. Texas court recognized that a vacancy may occur by abandonment of office. This is the part we really want to get to here, because this is what we're really analyzing is, can they be removed? In your second question, you ask whether Texas law allows for determination that a legislator has vacated office. Both the Texas Constitution and the Election Code establish the timing of when a vacancy occurs in public offices, generally accounting for vacancy by death, resignation, removal, or acceptance of another office, not that they voluntarily abandon. A declaration of ineligibility, creation of a new office, if a deceased or ineligible candidate wins an election, or if an officer-elect declines to assume office. However, we find no constitutional provision or statute establishing an exhaustive list for why a vacancy occurs or the grounds under which an officer may be judicially removed from office, meaning they don't exclude the possibility that abandonment could be a basis for having someone declared out. We therefore look to the courts for guidance. The Texas Supreme Court has long recognized that, quote, a vacancy may be made by resignation, death, expiration of term of office, abandonment, there's your key word right there, removal, or forfeiture, and that abandonment is an office is a species of resignation. Describing abandonment of office, one Texas court explained, abandonment is a species of resignation. Resignation and abandonment are voluntary acts. The former is a formal relinquishment. The latter is a relinquishment through non-user. Now, again, this is going back to 1873. So language here is going to be a little different, and it's not something that comes up a lot. Abandonment implies non-user, but non-user does not of itself constitute abandonment. The failure to perform the duties pertaining to the office must be with actual or imputed intention on the part of the officer to abandon and relinquish the office. The intention may be inferred from the acts and conduct of the party and is a question of fact. So it's a fact-specific thing. We need to sort of look at what the person did and then say, are they abandoning their office or not? Whether a specific legislator abandoned his or her office such that a vacancy occurred will be a fact question for a court and is beyond the scope of an attorney general opinion. So now the question comes, did these people leave? Well, they seem to walk out and then flee to Illinois. You would think that a Texas court would recognize that as abandonment. A district court may make a determination that the legislator has forfeited his or her office due to abandonment and can remove the legislator from office, thereby creating a vacancy. Texas law recognizes a public officer may be removed from office. Call up subsection 66001.2 of the Civil Practice and Remedies Code. Establishes an action in quo warranto if a public officer does an act or allows an act that by law causes a forfeiture of his office. I pull this up over here. That wasn't it. This is it here, 6.001. Make this a little bigger. Which is this is procedure that you use. So for extraordinary remedy under quo warranto, meaning by what right, an action in the nature of quo warranto is available if a public officer does an act or allows an act that by law causes a forfeiture of his office. So Ken Paxton would bring a claim against these 50 Democratic House members saying, hey, they've abandoned, and now we want to have them declared that they forfeited their office and are now removed. What a court is likely to do in this scenario, if a quo warranto is brought, is they'll likely give them an opportunity to cure and say, get your ass back here. This is what's likely to happen. I'll break down the most likely scenario for you as we're getting towards the end of this. But that would be the procedure that you would use is Ken Paxton would bring a quo warranto one by one for each of the legislators and say, this House Democrat, walked out in the middle of a session and then then we ordered this special session and directed them and informed them of it, and they refused to come. And we want them declared that they've abandoned their office. And then you file 50 different suits. You probably would not do it as a global thing. You probably do it one by one, hitting each of them individually. I would assume that's how Waranto would work. And because you sort of want to say each person, you're not going to be looking at them as a group. You're going to say, did this person, when they left, was this person sick? Were they vomiting? They weren't able to come because of illness, or were they, or did they just, decide, hey, let's go on some margarita tour up in Chicago because we specifically can't form a quorum. And those who don't have a good faith valid basis presumably could be subject to being removed. If a legislator is believed to have forfeited his or her office by abandonment, the attorney general or the county or district attorney of the proper county may initiate a suit in district court. If the court determines that the public officer has forfeited the office, the court shall enter judgment removing the person from office. If an officer is removed from the office by a court or other tribunal, a vacancy occurs and the date of the judgment becomes final. So, in summary, Texas courts recognize vacancy may occur by abandonment. Whether a specific legislator abandoned his or her office such that a vacancy occurred will be a fact question for the court, and I'm not going to weigh in on that. And through a quo warranto action, a district court may determine the legislator has forfeited his or her office due to abandonment and can remove the legislator from office, thereby creating a vacancy. There you go. There you go. So, that's now I'll give you my personal perspective as to what is likely to unfold. There'll probably be further. Before I do that, let me just do a quick check here and make sure that they didn't. See if there was any updates in the last couple of hours on this after I pulled this story. So there is somewhat of a development here. Texas Republicans vote to arrest Democrats' installed redistricting vote. Texas Republicans have voted to track down and arrest dozens of Democratic legislators who have fled the state to block passage of partisan redistricting plan. The vote passed 85-6 following Republican Governor Abbott's threat of bribery charges against the absent Democrats. After the vote, the governor ordered state troopers to locate, arrest, and return to the House chamber any member who has abandoned their duty. Texans It's only ramping up. It's only ramping up.
Homes.com's comprehensive search layers cover.
We don't care. We don't care. We don't care. Still got 22 seconds on that. I expect that as Ken Paxton and Abbott increase the pressure, the Democrats will ultimately cave. And then they'll vote and they'll pass it. And then they'll fight over, and then they'll fight over it. The question is how long they're able to stall. But I don't think it's going to last
Texans are
more than
being
a couple of
let
weeks.
down and not getting the flood relief they need because these Democrats have absconded from the responsibility. And I believe they have forfeited their seats in the state legislature because they're not doing the job they were elected to do. These legislators have been they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. And so the facts will have to come out. But I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility.
That'd be
Facts will have to
bribery?
come out.
How is that bribery?
Skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would
Wow. Okay. I assume you all can hear me. Now I'm hearing it. Okay. I had some sort of internet issue, glitch. I didn't do anything. That was just all of a sudden nothing was working. All right, good. Okay. Let me just find back where I'm at. Okay. What we were looking at was Greg Abbott, and he was explaining that if they were soliciting money, that would be bribery. I was trying to understand what part of it was bribery, but if they're soliciting money, then I definitely get that. Here's where he explains that.
Their seats in the state legislature because they're not doing the job they were elected to do. These legislators have been both, they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. And so the facts will have to come out. But I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas.
So he's getting far more. He's getting pretty serious about this situation. Pretty serious indeed. All right. What I'll tell you I expect to happen is there's going to be increased pressure from both Abbott and Ken Paxton. I think they're going to go both routes. I think he's going to keep ordering special sessions. The special sessions are, if they fail to show for a special session, that would only bolster a claim that Ken Paxton, or a local district attorney, but likely Ken Paxton, would be bringing as the attorney general against each of these House Democrats, saying that they should be abandoned. It's unlikely that they will be declared abandoned without having an opportunity to cure. So what's likely to happen is, assuming that they bring the application, rather than having to go through the whole process of having a hearing, the court is likely to say, because they'll probably try to move forward on an expedited basis, saying we can't run our legislature until this is remedied. We need this chop. And the court will probably agree that it should be handled on an expedited basis. And the court is likely to give them an opportunity to cure their delinquency and abandonment by showing up, in which case the whole thing gets resolved. So that is that's what I would anticipate is the most likely way that this series of events are likely to unfold, probably over the next week or two, if not sooner. But I don't think this is going to be a lengthy holdout. This is just posturing. And to the extent they raise money and he's able to put pressure on them for improperly raising money, that'll be an interesting thing. I doubt that's probably more of a threat from Abbott than an actual steps he's going to take as far as prosecuting them for bribery. So I don't foresee that we're going to see anyone hauled into courts on criminal charges of bribery because they took money from different fundraisers of different crazy Go Act Blue folks screaming, raise money for this is the start. This is the first domino where they're going to try and gerrymander, because we've never done that before. And they're going to try and gerrymander. And since they're gerrymandering and they want to keep them out, so send them money to show your love and support. And they're probably going to succeed in getting that money without facing any criminal charges. That's likely to happen, assuming, and that's another stick that they can wave over their heads, that Abbott is waving over their heads right now, saying they can be prosecuted for that. And if they don't show up quickly, in short order, that they'll proceed with those bribery charges. So these are the two weapons at the disposal of Abbott and Ken Paxton to get the House Democrats to show up for a quorum. Abandonment by Ken Paxton, which the court is likely to say, okay, we're not going to proceed with this whole investigation on abandonment if you cure it in the next few days. Or fines or potentially bribery charges that they wave over their heads and say, we're not going to hit you with bribery charges if you just show up. That's the most likely series of events that we're going to see play out of this, but I certainly plan on keeping you updated on any further developments in this. Any questions? Do we have any questions in the audience? We did not hit our goal, but I am going to recognize that out of deference to Century Bro, who gave a very generous super chat, I'm going to count that as the missing between. I'll count that as 4. Plus, we also had another one that I don't know how I somehow missed a super chat from. Supposedly, I missed a super. I'm being told I missed a super chat. I'm being told I missed a super chat. So I'm going to take some suggestions as to what I should do to reward the audience for hitting our goal today. I'm going to count as if we hit our goal today. And I'm going to try and find that super chat that I missed, because I don't like missing super chats. So let me see if I can find that. Where are you? I have to go to my monetization to find that super chat. If while we're here, you can like and subscribe, I would appreciate it. Where are my supers? Supers and gifts. See all. Jade Schwalbeck said, I ask my wife for the love making every day, but don't get it. But when I do, it's amazing. It's the same with our relationship. You're not available every day, but when you are, it's amazing. I have no words. Thank you. Thank you, I guess. No, that's definitely a compliment. Probably could have been phrased a little better, but thank you. Old School says, hey, Joe, can you offer a prayer for my sister? She was found today in her apartment having passed away. I'm so sorry. Only 54. I thought we had more time to work out our differences. Yeah, I'm terribly sorry. May God have compassion on her soul and judge her with grace. And I hope you and the rest of your family can deal with the loss in ways that are productive. And especially when there's a passing with unresolved issues, it's difficult to sometimes categorize like how to handle that. So yeah, prayers for you that you and your family are able to grow from this challenge. Because ultimately life is a series of challenges in various sizes and shapes. And loss of a loved one is one of the most difficult challenges. So I hope that for you it's something that you can grow from, like any other. And it's a more difficult challenge, but yeah. I hope that was some comfort, although I feel as if that was it's a tough blow. Sibling is a tough blow. Can use civil action to force them back into state and house. If they don't return, can hold them in contempt of court. Yeah, there's a lot of different legal actions you can use. That's for sure. Hit goal because goals are BS. They're not total, but just need to use single level of super chat. That's one way to look at it. That's one way to look at it. I'm very appreciative of people who are particularly generous. So when someone hits me with a really big super chat, you get a nice rush from that. I'm not going to kid you. But I definitely like the interaction of having a lot of different chats. It enhances the show, I think. Because a large part of what I'm doing here is it's not just me talking at my camera, but that I feel like I'm interacting with people. You're pretty much my social outlet for the day. It's you guys, my family. So, J.H. Schwabeck, who watched me struggle, made you laugh. It's Miller's goal. You did. You did make me laugh. You made me laugh and cringe at the same time. I think that's the real goal. Not just the laugh. It's not just the laugh. It's that you want to make me laugh and also just sort of feel unsettled in the same moment. I think that was the real goal there. Anyway. All right. Do we have suggestions? Anyone? I said I'm going to give it to you. So I sort of feel like giving added credit to the large super chats is a way of sort of blending that. That's why I do it that way, Allegan. Rather than just giving a number. Also, they don't let me put a number up there. If they did, I would consider that, but I don't get to use that. It's not my it's not my internet. You think my internet comes and goes like in like 90 seconds and like that's because I'm not paying my bill? Crying out loud. Yeah, I paid it really fast there. All right. So that is so offensive. That is so offensive. When I was younger, you remind me of something. I just had a flashback when I read this. When I was my early 20s. So there was a word that Ortho Jews in my circle would use, which they don't really use anymore. The word in Hebrew is kedai, which means technically appropriate. But it's like, it was used to mean like surprisingly good, like euphemistically in my circles, kedai. And there was a friend of mine who was dating a girl and was really into her. And he said he had just gone with her to like a Kenny G thing. And he came back afterwards and he said to me, guys, I got to tell you, Kenny G is really kedai. And I'm still friends with this guy. I still like him. He's a really good guy. But when he said that, me and the other friend who heard this just sort of looked at each other. And the thought we had was, okay, no dude would ever say that except for the fact that he's really hung up on this girl that he was going out with, who he ended up marrying. And the thought I had was, it's really weird how falling for a girl can make you turn gay. I think that's what I said to my other friend after he walked away. It's like, it's really weird how falling for a girl can make you turn gay. So you wouldn't think that, but it can. Falling for a girl can make you turn gay. Joe the Jew Space Lasers. Nice. Joe the Jew Space Lasers took out your internet, apparently. Apparently. Okay, so there was one other thing I was asked to check out. You guys haven't given me any suggestions for what I should do to reward the chat for doing so awesome with the interaction tonight. I felt like I'm looking for suggestions. I'm checking both ghetto. I'm gonna start with locals. Let me see in locals if there's suggestions. What do you want me to do? What should I do? I don't know. Why is it not loading messages? And I'm already in extra time. Can we talk about how Kurt Cobain didn't kill himself? What? You think he didn't self-delete? Ooh, a pick of stories. I don't know if I just gave you a story. Okay, I actually like this suggestion. Okay, this is what I got. This I like. This I like because I stumbled on this thing today that I was like, I like this suggestion. This is what we're gonna do. That's a good reward. Well done, Crow Minion. That's a really good one. If I promised I was going to check Kimmy on X to see if she shared with me stuff on this, so I'll do that. And I found this channel which has a series of short videos, too short for me to use for an opening, that I was just like, oh my God, this is so funny and so racist. It was so funny and so racist. And it was racist against Jews. Then the next one would be racist against blacks. And the next one would be racist against Jews. And the next one against blacks. It was basically, and I was like, I think I can get away with playing this because there's enough racism against Jews that I can play it. Because if it was just racist against, a race I'm not part of, then I can't do it. But it was really funny. And they're all short. They're all like 20, 12, 30 seconds. And I was just like, I spent like 45 minutes today just giggling at one video after another. So that's what we're gonna do. But first, let me see if Kimmy gave me any Jasmine Crockett freaking out stuff, because that'd be cool. Did you give me any of those? Do I see anything from you? Not seeing anything. She said she was going to tag me. Did she tag me? Is that what happened? Oh, here's one she tagged me in. So we got. I haven't. Where'd that go? So, got the wrong one. This is what she shared. This is what Kimmy shared with me here. Jasmine freaking out about losing her seat.
That they talk a lot of noise, but these guys are weak. That's why they're over here trying to bully people. Bullies are always weak. The difference is,
But they're not bullying. They're just removing you.
they expect Democrats to kind of be the nice guys that we are. They
No. Loony.
expect us to take the
She looks more and more like she looks more and more like Candace Owens every day.
punch and say thank you. Well, I am here to tell you, not only are we going to punch back, but we're about to beat you down. We're going to win. I'm going to tell you why we're going to win, because that they talk.
These are the people who are most in danger of losing their seats. Right here. Right here. Imagine Al Green gets lost. Oh my God. Did you give me any more, Kimmy? Of her freaking out. La, 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 la. Here's another one. The battle over redistricting.
And I'm sorry, but instead, we are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out. So I fully anticipate that we are going to take control of the United States House, because that is what the American people want. And that is why Donald Trump and his regime is so afraid. And I'm sorry, but instead, we are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to.
Do you have anything to offer other than we're not Trump? Does she have a weave that falls off the NWMA? I don't know. I don't know. Let me see what else, if she had any more. I think that might have been it from her. All right, let me share with you the funny thing that I wanted. I thought about sharing. I'll give it to you now. I'm warning you now. If you're going to be offended if something is racist against blacks or Jews, you probably should just pretend that I already told you to, lab meat, they, them. Here, this is for those of you who are going to leave because I'll get this that way now. Don't eat lab meat. It's meant for they, them. It's not meant for you. Okay. And also, do not eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't eat the bugs. With that, because we need to make sure that people are on the same page about those essentials. We got those essentials out of the way. Let me see where I have it. I definitely have it here somewhere. Definitely not this link. Did I get rid of it? It's possible I did. There it is. This is a channel. This is a channel which is known as Making Unwearable Shirts. Making unwearable shirts. Some of these are bad. Some of these are very, very bad. I'm just warning you. Just this is meant for. I hope everyone left. If you're sensitive, I hope you left. Making unwearable shirts, day 26. Black James Bond. Oh my God. That's so wrong. That is so wrong. I'm sorry. I think that's funny. I think that's really funny. I understand the banjo's sketchy. But there's a certain genius to that. Credit score 007. I said there's gonna be it really hits on blacks and Jews. Let me find some more from I think they get Muslims also. It's one after another. Not Bob the Builder, bomb building. All right, let's go to the next one. Oh, they're very big into the 9/11 also. That is just wrong. That is wrong. Oh gosh. It's just one after another. I don't know if they actually make these shirts or not. I don't know. Come on. Come on. That's not cool. Come on. That's not cool.
Have come to show you God. Yeah. Have come to show you God.
Oh my God. This is so wrong. It's so wrong. You can make them for my non-existent merch store. Thanks. I appreciate that. 007 credit score. I think they're 6 over actual. Sent to Lincoln locals in the poorhouse these days. Oh, it's okay. What'd you send? What'd you send me? What'd you send me? It was on Kurt Cobain. That was a fan sent me. I don't see in locals. I'm looking in locals. I don't see it there. I'm scrolling through. I'm looking for your name here in locals. I don't see it there. I'm sorry. I'm not seeing. I'm looking in locals. I'll check back in locals later. And also, Queen of Recruitment Bella Stella hitting us with 10 new members of the following. God bless you. Do a quick look-see to see who she brought in here. Should we do a quick look-see? Who'd you bring on in here? Following 10 people brought into the following courtesy of Queen of Recruitment Bella Stella. That includes Ruthann 85, Dragon Slayer, Hope for Me, Craig Bolton 5093, Nana 1776. She's old school. She's been around a while. I'm not saying she's old. I'm saying she's been at the channel a while. For all I know, Nana 1776 is like, 28. Toxic Zombie G, Sharon Tyler 6248, Pathiker 4693, Journey to Light GLP 1, Will H4340, and Shellier 154. Welcome to the following. Please bear in mind that I am not, I repeat, I am not at all the leader of the following. I'm just a host. I am just a host. God bless you, Bella Stella. Thank you so much. That please, if you heard your name called out there, I appreciate it. If you can, as a new member of the following, just extend your gratitude to Bella Stella for being so awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. They actually make them for sale on the website, so you can get Pakistani. There's more. I see where this is going. Oh no. Oh no. I'm just hitting them one by one real fast, okay? I'm not endorsing anything you're seeing here. Yeah, I knew where that was going. Oh no. Oh no. 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 Again? That was good. That was good. That was pretty good. This is the first one I saw, and I was like, this is pretty genius, actually. My God. That was the first one I saw, and I was just like, oh my God, that is so messed up. I saw that, and I was like, all right, let me see what else they got. I want to see what else they got. My car, my choice. This one is actually like really spot on. Like, it's like, yeah, what do you mean my body, my choice? So it's your body can do whatever you want. So my car, my choice. Same thing. I don't care who it affects. My car, my choice. It's a really great. This is an argument I've never heard before that I was just like, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's choice of beverage. Oh no. Oh my God. Oh my God. That is messed up. What the heck? Oh my God. I don't know. Is this another Man of Steel? Yeah, it's gonna be Man of Steel again. Oh, Dark. I think we saw the same thing. Yeah, this is the Kate Eagles F. I'm done. I am sorry for that. I am so sorry. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I can't. Oh my God. Oh my God. That is terrible. I don't think it was a China thing. That's not cool. That's not cool. I think we got. Pikachu. Pikachu. Yeah. We got that one. All right. Oh, that's cute. That's cute. So that. This is Chewbacca. Yeah, I see. Okay, I see what you did there. No. Oh, it's gonna be Jumanji. Yeah. This is the music they use for the 9/11 ones. It's just a matter of whether they're gonna tie Jews into 9/11 or not. That's it. There we go. That's pretty funny. That's like a real picture. All right. So there you go. There you go. Well, thank you, Maureen Hooper. I appreciate that. You're awesome. All right. Was that it? Did I cover everything? I think the only thing I didn't do was the Civil Rights Act of 1965, or the Voting Rights Act, the Voting Rights, not Civil Rights, Voting Rights Act of 1965. But that's I don't think I have the brain for that anymore. I'm almost 3 hours in at this point. Joe, why do proctologists have all the good gossip? They have the insight. No. 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 Just no. All right. Doing a quick check, making sure I didn't miss anything in the ghetto. Ghetto's good. Ghetto's good. And I feel as if that was a strong finish there. Strong finish. Time to land the plane. I already did all the other stuff there. I will remind you in case you missed it. Don't eat some bugs. Do not eat some bugs. I thank you all for joining me. Tomorrow, God willing, I do plan on coming back here all this week. My next off day isn't until like a week from tomorrow. It's like my next off day. But that's for like a friend's wedding that is a good friend. So yeah, and even that I might try to make it back for a late show. We'll see. But all this week, I'm back in form. Till tomorrow, God willing. Till tomorrow. I thank you all for joining me. I expect to see you all back in attendance tomorrow evening. Till then, please make sure you like, share, hit the subscribe, like, share out the stream, share it out. Have a good night, everyone. And as always, Godspeed.